Welcome to the Service to Syndication podcast, where we interview the biggest and most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world who have worn the uniform of this great country, those who provide services to our men and women in uniform, and other service-oriented professionals to provide you with the tool sets, the mindsets, and the skill sets to help you conquer your dreams and goals in real estate and to use this wealth creation vehicle so you can live a more successful, happy, and fulfilled life of generosity and prosperity. If what you desire is time, lifestyle, and financial freedom, you've come to the right place. We will bring to you the best real estate entrepreneurs who will give you the insights, the knowledge, experience, skills, so you can go out and crush it in whatever real estate asset class you desire. So grab a pencil and paper, sit back, and enjoy the ride on the Service to Syndication podcast. 3, 2, 1. Hello, my servicemen and women and other service providers. Welcome to another episode of the Service to Syndication Real Estate Podcast, where we interview the most successful real estate entrepreneurs, investors, capital raisers in the world, where most have donned the uniforms of our great country. We aim to provide the tool sets, the mindsets, and skill sets for you to achieve your personal and business goals while using real estate as a wealth creation vehicle to help you live a more successful, happy, and fun-filled life. I am super excited today because I have Mr. Seneca Pena Collazo, who is a top-notch real estate investor. But before I introduce our guest today, I have a question a favor I'd like to ask you. Please, if you get some value out of this interview, if you get some type of insight, mindset shift, if you learn a new skill, new information, receive inspiration or motivation to go out and take some action to make some progress in your life, please share this episode with some of your friends. Send it to someone you know who might be or could be interested in real estate. Share it on your social media, post it on your timeline, and share it on your wall. Help us spread our message while you help others. And for all of you who shared this episode, thank you. Again, we have Mr. Seneca Pena Collazo, who is a retired Army officer with 25 years of service and nearly 2 decades of experience cultivating a diverse real estate portfolio encompassing single-family homes, corporate and medium-term rentals, small multifamily properties, and apartment buildings. Beyond real estate, Seneca is a passionate crypto enthusiast and educator, well-versed in various facets of decentralized finance, including mining, lending, borrowing, and liquidity pooling. With a bachelor's in education and a master's degree in human resource management, international relations, and security studies, Seneca combines his military background and extensive knowledge to provide invaluable insights and education for military personnel and veterans seeking financial prosperity. Seneca, I would like to welcome you to the Service to Syndication podcast. All right, Seneca. So the first thing that I do with my guest is that I ask them to walk us through their real estate journey in 75 seconds or less.
Okay. Hey, Cedric, thanks for having me on the show. Started out for me in 2007. I was a captain in the Army at the time, just going to our professional military education at that level, and down in Alabama, went to purchase a home because that's what a lot of my friends were doing. And, rates were really good. And I knew I wanted to get into this real estate game a little bit. So purchased my first home there. And I'll never forget, it was about $112,000 I purchased the home for. 6 months later, the market crashed, 2008. It dropped in value about 60%. And where a lot of folks were getting nervous and struggling, I was like, well, you know what? Mortgage is being covered right now. I'm just going to roll with it and keep with it. So that's what I did. And then I'd say I was a kind of a lazy investor for the next maybe decade after that. I might have picked up another home as I had PCS'd. And really, what we kind of call that is a little bit of military house hacking, right? So leveraging your military opportunity to purchase a home, use your VA, pay no money down, live in it for a while, spruce it up a little bit, and then PCS, and then you can either sell or you can rent it out. I chose to rent it out because even selling a home seemed a little bit more daunting to me before I'd gotten into it as really just a hobby. So really, it was right around COVID where, as I was getting towards the end of my, starting to think about retiring and separating from the military, where I was like, you know what? I want the option to have freedom after retirement, not to work for somebody else. So that's when I started diving in, like so many others, into any and everything I could see about real estate, podcasts, books, all the videos I could, getting networking events, all the things that I could, spending every waking moment, getting education and courses. That's been really instrumental in me getting the knowledge to be able to comfortably expand. So really, in that first year, I think I bought like another 9 houses, like right off the bat with just about no money out of pocket. And then, saw what that trajectory looked like and thought, hey, as I started to see some more opportunities, I learned a little bit more about the commercial game, started to get some education on that, found that I really liked the underwriting part of it and crunching the numbers and looking at the deals. And that's where I started to get into that piece. So I started doing underwriting for some folks, for some different teams, and then in my own deals where I'm going start to finish on them with other GPs, adding that kind of superpower to what they're doing, and started to expand, really not even to just multifamily assets, but now I've expanded into really any good commercial real estate deal. So I've got some land now too, closing on a golf course this week, like all wrapped up into deals. So really just the opportunities have been tremendous, and it has enabled me to, again, have what my goal was, which was the freedom to be able to give back to my family who gave so much to ride in my rucksack through my career. So that's where we are. I also do some coaching now, and I'm also in very heavily involved in military investment networks. So I'll give a plug out to Active Duty Passive Income. It's a collection of about 65,000 plus military members and their families and stuff. Really, it's just a Facebook group. Go in, you have questions, I'll answer your questions. You can meet other people in your area. You can also meet professionals in the area. So I have to give them a plug as a great networking community. And they also offer some education where I'm a part of that as well, where I'll coach people up now on how to get into the commercial side of the house, and all the steps to go through specifically with underwriting.
Nice, nice. Okay, so you joined the military. You were a military officer.
Right.
For people who are watching this that's not familiar with the military, um, you know, as an officer, you make decent income. Decent income. So why pursue real estate?
Yeah. So it comes down to, I know I wanted to have more, right? And I wanted to be able to provide more for my family and a certain quality of life. And I had seen other uh, military members and officers that were kind of in my group that had an investment property or two. So it seemed like a natural fit to me. When I first got in, I wasn't married, didn't have any kids. So, what are you doing with your money? Like, not to say I didn't enjoy being a young officer and blowing money on, going to parties, clubs, vacations, stuff like that. But I knew I needed to be a little bit more methodical, and the time that I needed to invest was now because of the time value of money, right? So money you invest today is absolutely worth more than money that you're going to try and make and build, in the future. So that's why real estate, and it made sense, and it was also something that I could do passively, where I could be full time into my military career, which was very demanding. And I'm sure as a former service member, what the time commitments are. Up in the morning, break a day, doing your PT, and then your full day of work, and then boom, come home, and then there's some other, late nights, weekends, you're away for long amounts of times. I needed something where I didn't have to be actively engaged in it. So that's why real estate made sense for me as a vehicle.
Great, great. So, what markets are you currently in?
So I love the Midwest and the Southeast, and specifically because I love cash flow. I love landlord friendly states. Um, and for me, as I was looking at how I could supplement my income, cash flow was more important to me, right? Because I feel like you have to have cash flow to set your base. And then you can start into some other markets that are more appreciation markets, right? Like you have on the coasts. Um, uh, to be able to really count on, that then can become your wealth building kind of focus and strategies there. But I think at the core essence, at least for me, it made sense. I need the cash flow. And, luckily or unluckily, one of the positive benefits out of coming out of COVID was, the real estate market absolutely skyrocketed. So in the last couple of years, all my properties appreciated, 30 to 40% over a very short amount of time. Where in my mind, I think, I'm thinking long term, 20, 30 years to be able to enjoy that sort of appreciation, which enabled me to have the capital to start to get into some of the commercial side of the house, right? Because as you may or may not know, the commercial side tends to be higher dollar price tags and high barrier entries to get into. So you got to have a little money to get into that game.
Okay. So, along that line, is there a certain asset class that you prefer?
Yeah, there are several asset classes that I like, and because I'm a numbers guy, it really whatever makes sense to me. Because not only does it need to generate cash flow, but also for me personally, I'm looking at those asset classes that don't require as much time, right? Engaging and investing with. So I started out in multifamily, which isn't bad, but I definitely have looked into and really branched into as well, doing a lot of deals and underwriting for self storage, as well as shifting into a little bit later into land deals. Um, so, again, if the numbers work, you know, and I don't want to work that hard at it, it's you spend a lot of time up front and then reap the benefits on the back end. I'm a firm believer in putting in the time early and reaping the rewards later.
Okay. All right. So, multifamily, like you said, is one of the asset classes that, you've invested in. Are there a certain class of asset that you are investing in multifamily?
Yeah, so for me, I personally would like to invest in B, C class properties, not a heavy value add, right? And honestly, like I personally will invest really in those deals that where I find more opportunity to look for some of the smaller apartment complexes, like 50 and below, that are run by kind of mom and pop organizations that maybe don't have the books right now. They're looking to unload as they're getting to retirement. They haven't raised rents in about 10, 15 years, but they have taken phenomenal care of their properties. Like those are my favorites. Those are the ones where I don't have to put a lot of work into it, a little paint here, a little touch up there, and then can raise rents immediately to get to market rents and enjoy one, either a cash flow play, or two, because I've increased the net operating income by increasing the rent so much, where I can do a quick turn and kind of like a flip but on a larger scale. With the commercial properties, those are my favorite. I look for those all the time, and I think we're going to come into a time here shortly where a lot, not necessarily the mom and pop stuff, but there's just going to be a lot more inventory in general that'll become available based on people coming in at super low interest rates, right? And getting their debt, or coming in on bridge debt, right? Where they were counting on after, 2 years, 3 years of paying like, crazy private money lending or hard money lending rates, being able to transition into longer term agency debt, which, and when I say that, I mean government backed debt, Fannie and Freddie loans that traditionally have been much lower interest rates. Well, if they were counting on an interest rate of being at 3 or 4%, and right now they're all at 6 and 7%, you're kind of stuck. So it's creating opportunities for forced sales. Um, it's creating opportunities for, and unfortunately, you see some larger operators going under, which is tough for everybody involved in those deals. But again, opportunities for other operators who are running a little bit more efficiently uh, on their deals to be able to come in and really capitalize on some of these opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. I 100% agree with that. I know for us last year we were looking at an opportunity, and but the interest rates had already began to climb, and we were looking at this one opportunity, and it was literally every week, almost every time we spoke with the lender, um, the interest rates had
Yeah.
jumped, and we had underwritten it at a specific interest rate, and we stress tested it up to a certain level. Then we
Mm-hmm.
were going to be able to continue to cash flow, be able to pay all of our bills and everything. And then we got we were getting closer to closing, and the interest rates jumped, and we were like, when the lender came to us and they were like, this is the current interest rate. I was like, I don't even have to put that into my analyzer to tell
Yeah.
you that
Yeah.
we're dead in the water.
Yeah.
And so we didn't pull the trigger, lost a little bit of money on the deal, but
Mm-hmm.
we saved our investors headache and heartache and
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
I mean, I have no hair to lose, so trust me.
Yeah.
I
I'll
would
tell
have
you on our
lost a little
last
bit I
deal.
did have.
Yeah. Right. No. So I'll tell you on our last deal, we didn't even use a bank. We did 100% investor raise because what we were looking at in terms of even the agency debt, right? Great deal. And this one was a development deal, great or development opportunity. Again, a land flip with some back end development opportunities on it too. But just looking at getting the land, um, it made no sense. I mean, we would have to be so lean, or you'd have to raise so much more for reserves that it would completely dilute your returns going back. So we were like, you know what, if we're going to raise this much anyway, let's just raise it all. So everybody rolled up their sleeves and we got after it. And so you raised about an extra million or two to um, you know really own all the equity. And to be honest, I think for the next maybe 12 to 18 months until interest rates start to soften a little bit, until we see, again, some of all the inventory really start to come in and drive your cap rates down. Um, the rate you're looking at is right now, the benchmark rate is the SOFR, right? Your standard overnight financing rate. Used to be the LIBOR, but LIBOR had been more um, shown to be able to be manipulated by some of the markets. So now they shifted over to this SOFR rate, and that's what the Fed bases their rate on. And you see just in the last 18 to 24 months, like it used to be at 0.5%, it's now over 5%, right? So you're like, oh my goodness, what is going on with this thing? So that's what we keep our eye on. And you're listening to everything that the Fed is saying. You're listening to um, you know everybody's forecast here, and to be honest, like nobody's a crystal ball reader. So in your underwriting, to continue to be conservative and provide the best advice to your team as well as to your investors, it's like, hey, we can do this on our own, let's do it on our own. Then we can take, then all we have to worry about is income and expenses, because the equity we've already got under control, in terms of the debt that we're looking at. So we may need to do that again, and that might be the strategy we look at moving forward again for the next 12 to 18 months until interest rates start to calm down a little bit. But that's where we are.
Okay. Okay. So the deals that you're currently finding, how are you finding them?
Really, honestly, like I don't look for deals. Deals come to me at this point. I so when you when you give of yourself and of your talents to folks, um, it comes back to you tenfold. And to be honest, like I don't like looking for deals. Like I'm on some, drip lists here and there with brokers and stuff. So I get deals that way. But honestly, it's just the network of people that I um, associate with. They'll throw deals my way. They'll ask me to keep an eye on it for underwriting, and then at that point, it's like, hey, the numbers look really good on this one. I'll come in on this with you, on the GP side, as opposed to just maybe a chunk of the, acquisition fee or something up front for that work, where I'll do more than, with the follow-on work, because it's not just getting to the deal, right? Like that's the first part. Then it's like managing the deal for the rest of the, 5, 7 years, whatever it is, in the commercial space that you're looking for. Um, there's that part that has to go too with the accounting and the investor updates and all that stuff. So I have some skill sets there. I'll offer those to the team and become a part of that team. But in general, deals will just kind of come to me from networks. Like, hey, take a look at this. What do you think? Hey, so that's pretty much how I do it.
Okay, okay. So basically, what Seneca was talking about for my listeners is the go giver mentality. So go read that book. It's by
Absolutely.
John David Mann. I encourage all of you to go read that book. And it's about giving more, giving of yourself, and you'd be surprised what you get in return. So definitely go out and check that book out. Um, so because you're adding value and you're giving to all of these people within your network and active duty passive investing. Um, so you believe that this is how these relationships are being reciprocated back to you through what you're giving.
Absolutely. So, coming up in the military, especially as an officer where you're often put in leadership positions, it's all about the concept of servant leadership. And, you know, the most fulfilling part of my service was always the ability to coach, teach, and mentor young folks coming up, right? Because everybody that was a part of my unit and a part of the formations that I ran with, um, I mean, you're invested in them, right? Because when it comes down to it, those are the people that you're going to rely on in your crucible moments, right? So in the military, I was an attack helicopter pilot, and it was I've spent maybe like a little over 4 years in the Middle East, various deployments and stuff. So um, it was real. Like you counted on those people left and right. And that's where, kind of that fellowship and the brothership came forward. So any and everybody in that organization, in any way that I could help them move forward, I was going to do it. So, um, you know, as I learned about, how to be successful in the military, I would pass that on to them. As I learned how to be successful, as I started to develop the real estate piece, absolutely, push that on. I also have some other, side businesses that I do, and anything about entrepreneurship, and business in general. Like you got to pay it forward, and I do it hoping that somebody will glean maybe just a little piece or a little nugget that will help them on their journey moving forward. And that's really all the reward that I need.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love it. So let's transition a little bit to your most recent acquisition.
Okay.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about it and how was it acquired through syndication, joint venture,
Yeah.
the whole nine.
Yeah. So my most recent, as a matter of fact, we're closing today, which we're pretty excited about. Was a friend that I own, that I'm in a JV in for an apartment building. She was in a mastermind with a an SEC attorney who's out in Colorado, and he had been working this land deal in Colorado for the last 7, 8 months, where a Canadian hedge fund basically owned, it was just under 1,300 acres. Um, And his team, because of life, has started to fizzle out. So he needed some help to kind of bring this deal across the finish line as we're starting to get into the last phases of it. So all of the negotiations have been done. Fantastic job. Obviously, he's a real estate attorney, so all of that was dress right, dress locked tight. He was boots on the ground. Um, had relationships with the mayor and the Office of Economic Development guys. He plays golf with every Saturday. So everything was right in terms of how it came through. So he needed some help. Reached out to her. She reached out to myself and another military member that we're all in kind of the same JV on the apartment on, to bring us into the deal. So I picked up and again, I've got a few certifications in financial modeling and stuff like that. So I'm bringing that to the table. She's also in finance and accounting. My other partner that comes in, he's the development GC kind of maintenance dude. So, we came in, looked at it. I looked at the numbers and it didn't look right. I mean, because it was such a good deal. Like I spent weeks and weeks and weeks looking at this thing. Not weeks because it was towards the end of it, but many hours. I will say I cranked on this thing and couldn't believe how good this deal was. So we came together. We did, the capital raise, brought another entity in that specifically to help with the capital raising side of the house. We also, it was easy because it was kind of such a good deal that, it's always easy to find money when the deal is good. I think. So yeah, we syndicated. We did a combination 506B and 506C, right? So we started initially with a 506B for friends and family to get in because, like I said, for me, I made a specific entity just so I could have friends and family come in with me on this. Because again, sometimes they may not be ready for it, but I wanted to be able to afford and offer the opportunity to the people that I have developed and that I love to be able to get in on what could be a generational wealth kind of transaction here. But you can lead a horse to water, you can't make him drink. So some took,
True.
some
Very
jumped
true.
in, some were ready for it, and some kind of passed off. It's like, all right, no problem. I'll keep you in mind for the future deals, but it is what it is. So we did the raise there, and then after a certain date, we closed the 506B and opened a 506C, and then fully marketed it, right? Because that's what you have to do. And for your listeners, they're when dealing with commercial deals, because they start to fall into the securities realm, you have to be very careful in the way in which you raise capital for the deals, right? So there are specifically two exemptions that you look at for people who are accredited investors versus non-accredited investors. Accredited investors being those people who meet one of a number of definitions where either you make 200 grand, you own $1 million worth of stuff, not to include your house, or if you're jointly with your spouse, you make over 300 grand, or you're like a professional. So there's like a laundry list of things that qualify, but the main ones are your income and or net worth. So that is the difference between 506B, 506C. I think 506B is best for me and my friends. So that's the one for you can have what are called, kind of sophisticated investors. You get some slots to be able to invest with them. Whereas an accredited investor, because you make that much money or have that much stuff, the SEC, who guides the securities and these particular regulations, says, okay, you have shown and demonstrated that you can handle, investments of this type into this class. So, like I said, we did a combo 506B, 506C, and raised for it. Again, it filled up pretty quick too. And yeah, so had to push a few days just to get some admin stuff done. But like I said, we're closing today, and we're pretty excited to move forward with that one.
Okay. So if you don't mind me asking, like, what's going to be your play for this deal?
So really, at its core, it's a land flip. So we're buying land at just under $3,000 an acre, and right now, undeveloped land is selling for $8,000 an acre. Okay, this is where it gets better. It it is now the top priority of that municipality. So what they've done is set up districts to be able to, get the tax money and all that stuff on it. And then what happens is there's a couple options where there's specific funding called TIF funding, uh, as well as some other like bonds and stuff, where the city then will actually pay for the development of that land. And I'm talking about horizontal development, so roads,
Yeah.
sewer, electric. Once it is developed to mature, then the price tag goes up another 8 or 9x. So, we sell off some initial parcels. Oh, by the way, there's also a partnership we have with the city or the municipality to keep about half of those acres as natural open and recreational open space, where now they'll start to develop that into trails and build all of that tourism kind of business coming to it. And then there's already a golf course that sits on it that's one of the top in the state. We get to pick that up, so there's a cash flow play to it that really, it was that wasn't really the focus of what we were looking at. But
Right.
I mean, hey, dollars are dollars, cash flow is cash flow. So we've also taken on the optimization of that particular golf course to get it ready to either keep and or sell. And because really at the end of the day, we're looking to sell, all the parcels that we can, but we want to wait just enough, right? So you get all your money back in terms of return of capital in the first, 18 months, with a mind to the tax hits, right? So you want to do it in the most tax advantageous way.
Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Service to Syndication podcast. If you are a military service man or woman, government employee, or any other service related professional, this is for you. I once was where you are. As a service member, I lived paycheck to paycheck. As a government employee, I knew there was more out there for me. I tried all the get rich quick schemes. None of them worked. Then a friend of mine introduced me to real estate investing. I am a commercial multifamily syndicator who helps those who have served in the military and those who provide services to our men and women in uniform and other service-oriented professionals achieve their time, lifestyle, and financial freedom by investing passively into multifamily real estate. If you know that this life has more in store for you, I invite you to tune into the Service to Syndication podcast to learn the tools, tricks, and concepts to help you achieve the time, lifestyle, and financial freedom that comes with investing in real estate. So go over to cobbscreekcapital.us. That is COBBSCREEKCAPITAL.US and schedule a call so that we can get to know one another and see how we can work together to help you achieve your goals.
Whether you're selling stuff within the first 12 months or, at day 366 and beyond, we got some really smart tax folks. And we've actually come to a couple different tax strategists to help us on, sell off the chunks that we can write off because, there's some like easement type opportunities that you can have to write off. There's all sorts of, cool tax plays that you can do for the things to offset your capital gains piece. Capital gains being if you sell stuff and hold it less than a year, then you get taxed at your regular earned income rate, right? So we don't like that. We like long-term capital gains that happens, day 366 and beyond, where it's, you're being taxed at maybe like, 10, 15, no more than maxed out at 20%. That's much more easy to swallow. So get your return of capital in your first 18 months. Make sure that return of capital is offset with your tax advantages. And then the longer we wait and the more the land gets developed, the higher price point we can sell it at. So, we explain this is absolutely an appreciation play. So the longer that you do it, I mean, we pitched uh, 3 to 4x, but honestly, I think it's going to be closer to about 8 or 9x equity multiple. Meaning, we'll get you, if you give me, you know, 100 grand, I'm going to give you 800 grand back at the end of this deal by the time it go, or 900 grand. Um, that was amazing to me. So that's really what the play is for this deal. It's a flip, right? So, but because it's a large flip and you can kind of chunk it a little bit here and there, it makes it much more appealing.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, and then
That's going to be a home run play right there, man.
yeah, man. I tell you what, like I don't get involved in the soup to nuts with a lot of deals as part of the
Yes.
GP team. I like maintaining the freedom to just surge. Like, I'll do your underwriting here. I'll give you a couple flips as you're going from, you know, LOI to PSA to closing, letter of intent to purchase and sale agreement to your closing. Um, but when the deals are really good, and because I've done the underwriting and can vet and account for it, and I can talk to the guys about, all right, are you really the one that can run this business plan? Then I'll throw money into it as well and get in as a limited partner as well as a general partner, and keep running with it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It sounds like you guys have found the unicorn.
Yeah, this was a good one. So we're pretty excited about this one for sure. So we'll keep eyes open, and you find when you work with good people too,
Mhm.
like that is the best part of it. That is more important than the deal itself, is the people that you're working with. Because if you're all rowing the same way, if you're all looking out for each other, if everyone's willing to be accountable and step up and take ownership, man, sky's the limit. Doesn't matter what the deal is, because you can make a marginal deal a good deal, and you can make a good deal a great deal with the right people.
Okay. Okay. So with this team right here, that's with this land play,
Mhm.
how did you guys come together?
So like I said, it was my uh, a woman that I was a JV with.
Yeah.
She kind of brought us into the deal with her, with this attorney who's kind of the lead sponsor on this. That's how we came together on it. I started having, multiple meetings. We started bringing in other pieces to the team as we needed, like local brokers. Like I said, the capital raiser coming in, one more person to help with the development side of the house too. Um, and there is to oversee the operations component of it, right? There's going to be a full-time manager that's going to be the one that sits in on the city council meetings and stuff to do that, talking and going back and forth with the engineers to making sure everything's moving the information one. So that, where we don't have necessarily like a property manager for this particular deal, um, having someone on payroll to do that particular job with the right qualifications, right? Because you have to have the right connections in the town to do that. That's where the personnel piece, again, finding the right people, right,
Yeah.
um, makes any deal that much better. So that's kind of how we're coming together.
Okay. Now, is there any banking or institutional financing with this?
No, so for this deal, we actually did 100% investor equity raise.
Okay.
So we looked at it. We had some good relationships with some banks for previous deals that each of us had done on our own. So, we put the feelers out to a few different folks, and showed them the deals, but the numbers weren't really penning out as good.
Mhm.
I mean, there's still a good return, but we knew get to, um, if we could get to having not to pay the bank a mortgage note on it, the returns are way, 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 way better. Because it's like, hey, we're paying our investors back anyway on this. If there's enough, let's just give them all the money. Let's give them all the returns. So that's where we went to. So we all kind of rolled up our sleeves again. We brought in a professional capital raiser,
Okay.
and sometimes you need to find those folks, depending on the size of the deal, um, to come in and do it. And it's been good. And again, for me, I just started talking to deal with some other folks, like-minded folks who, looking to invest some stuff. And it wasn't that hard to come up with some capital raising. You know, you hear about the deal, you see some of the numbers, and they're like, cool, where do I wire the money to? So,
Yeah,
um, yeah, harder to find good deals than it is to find money for those deals.
nice. So are most of your investors on this opportunity, are they retail investors or real estate professional investors?
Yeah, so um, I think the majority of the investors are not, I wouldn't call them real estate professionals, but people who are at least marginally familiar and maybe have previously invested in real estate before. For my people, um, I had some people who've never invested in real estate before in terms of the friends and family that I kind of brought in. So this is kind of an education process here, but I think I may have spoiled them because they're going to get the returns on this deal. So any other deal that comes up, they're going to be like, well, why am I not getting a 10 times return on my money? What's going on? So yeah.
Cool. Uh, what do you do? What have you been doing to nurture your current investor base? Nurture that relationship.
So now that I'm retired, and really because for me, I think we're very like-minded in paying it forward. Um, I I am now much more deliberately and much more frequently putting out information about investing, business, entrepreneurship. Posting, growing my social media stuff um, as best I can. Right, I'm not an expert at it by any stretch of the imagination, but that and the coaching that I've kind of stepped into much more deliberately. Those sorts of things are where I think the majority of um, you know people giving people the opportunity to learn as well as establishing trust that if I come across a deal and I present it to them like, hey, it's been vetted and it makes sense, and hopefully coming off as someone that people can know, like, and trust to come and grow and do this wealth thing together, because there's tens and hundreds of thousands of operators, in the country trying to, all do deals and stuff. And we're all looking at the same deals. We're all chasing like 16 IRR and, 5% AR, right? So why, if you can go with anybody, why would you go with me? And really it's because, again, hopefully I've provided you some education and knowledge to help you make more informed decisions,
Yeah.
so that you can trust that when I come across something, it's going to be a good deal, and we can both kind of move forward and grow our wealth together. So that, do some conferences and stuff too. So put yourself more purposely out in like meetups locally and stuff, like, again, network, because you never know where the next deal comes from. And also, just as important, where you can share some of what you've done to help somebody else along in their journey, equally as important.
Okay. Great. So one of the questions that that I often ask is, do you still keep in touch with some of your comrades? But seem as though you literally just got off of active duty, I'm quite certain that you do. But
Yeah.
along that line, so when speaking with some of your comrades who are not in real estate, do your conversations kind of veer off towards real estate?
Yeah. So, you know, I always put it out there, when I'm investing in something. And it took a little bit. So I have um, the last like four guys that I was fortunate enough to command with for battalion command. Um, we were super close in command, and we've maintained and continue to be super close. We text each other just about every day in a group chat. That education piece, especially, is like half of us now have transitioned, and the other folks are starting to look to, and ask the same questions like I did, right? Like, what am I going to do after I retire? So as they're getting closer to asking those questions, they've definitely become more receptive to, hey, so what were you doing for this real estate thing again? And the some of them are actively looking at investing. Some of them have invested with me. So it's like, hey, obviously you want to bring your brothers along with you, right? Like, you want the best for them and their families. So I try not to overdo the real estate talk when I'm around them, right? Um, but I always throw little nuggets out here and just see if anyone is more open, where they are as they go along their journey, every now and then. Like, hey, yeah, uh, I'm headed to this conference this week, or I'm headed to go do a walkthrough on this piece of land that we've got a bid in on here, and just see if that's like, oh, really, and see if that opens anything else out. But I always, for folks that I come across, and if you're in real estate, you absolutely have to do this. You need to tell them you're in real estate and what you do, because you lay the seeds everywhere, and who knows when they bear fruit. But it is absolutely important that you're constantly out there telling people, giving value, giving information, any way you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. So I also ask, normally how do you give back? But throughout this whole interview, basically you've told, with from ADPI to just meeting people and just adding value to them and just giving them information to help them make whatever educated decisions that they need to in order to decide whether or not they want to invest in real estate themselves, invest passively, and so that's awesome. So that's awesome. So Seneca,
Yeah.
before you became this very successful person I see in front of me, give our listeners a little bit of your backstory, like where you grew up, how was
Yeah.
your upbringing,
Sure.
what in your past shifted your mindset
Hmm.
into becoming the person who you are today.
Yeah. So I'm from Philly, and I'm a diehard Eagles fan. I have to put that out there anyway. So I grew up in the city. I am the third of six brothers and sisters. So yeah, the family, big family. And I learned, I think, initially about what it was to work hard from my parents, to put in the time every day, because you knew you had to, because you had to provide, because you always want better for your kids than you had. So work ethic was a massive one. Um, from my father, learned how to soldier on. Right, he wasn't in the service. He was actually an attorney, but um, old school mentality of like, you always, provide for your loved ones. You always soldier through pain. You push through. You do what needs to be done. Have discipline, attention to detail, like all of these things and these values and traits. That's what I grew up with. Um, and then that translated, I think, very well into my military career. So I started out actually enlisted back in college, and then I switched over as I graduated and became an officer. Um, and then as expanded my network into organizations that had people from all over the country, right, and their different upbringings and backgrounds, all of a sudden that's where I kind of started to get the um, bug, I guess you could say, with like, hey, you know, when folks are doing big things and folks are hustling and getting after it, they talk about it. And then you're like, oh, so what are you doing? Oh, is that working for you? Like, well, I can work hard. I'm pretty good. This guy, if he's being successful, he's in any smarter than me. So I think I can probably do that. Um, and that's where when success becomes commonplace, when hard work, more importantly, becomes commonplace amongst the people that you are around, then you naturally start to, you know, change your mindset and outlook at what you're doing, and saying, okay, am I on the path to where I need to be? Because again, as an officer and a leader, we are trained to think long term as well, right? So it's not always about what the short term gains are. So as you are strategically thinking about your life and what you want to do, and are you on glide path to kind of get there, and you're like, maybe not. Maybe I need to think a little bit earlier about how I want my life to go. You got to take steps, right? You can't do the same things every day and expect different outcomes. That's insanity, right? By
Yeah,
definition.
yeah,
So um, I'll never forget, I bought my first house, and that's where I joined multi-level marketing. It was called Quick Start at the time, but Amway. That's where I first got into that, and that's where I learned, you know, multi-level marketing, not necessarily for me, but I am thankful for the experience, because that's where the first time I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's where, again, the mindset stuff about how to be an entrepreneur, sales, right? Engaging with people, communicating, all of those tools and skills absolutely attributed to, you know, me moving towards my real estate journey, right? So, opportunities come when you're ready for them, right? I firmly believe the Lord puts those things in your path when you're ready to receive it. So I wasn't ready back then to go for it. I had to grow a little bit, right? Because you're either succeeding or you're learning. So um, I think it was those experiences, and then, you know, living and traveling, the hunger of knowing that I wanted to continue that lifestyle as well, post military. So I knew if that's what I wanted to do, again, I'm a numbers guy, right? There's a dollar sign that equates to that, and you can figure out what that math is every month and say, okay, so this is where I want to be. This is where I'm gonna be based on retirement. There's this delta here I need to get to, but I also have to do it in such a way where I've got time to be able to, enjoy that stuff. Because you can make a ton of money, but if you don't have the time to spend or enjoy it, then what are you really doing?
Yeah.
So that is why absolutely I look to craft towards, especially, network with more people as I ramped up into my real estate journey, exposed to, again, way more like-minded people. That that fed into, again, where where I wanted to be, and the opportunities and the lifestyle I wanted post retirement. So I could say, hey, I don't want to work for anybody else when I retire. So real estate has enabled me to do that. Um, and then at the same time, what I also wanted to be very cognizant of is not giving myself, working for myself, another 90-hour job,
Yeah.
right? Where I am very deliberate now in the things that I say yes to, and I try and say no to as much as I can. Because I want the freedom to be able to get my kids ready in the morning, right? So dad gets up, dad gets them. I have two little ones too, a 4-year-old and a 9-year-old, right? So I
Yeah.
take them to school. I do my daughter's hair every morning, get her dressed. I make breakfast. I pick them up. I take my son to, Taekwondo after school and stuff. I'm there on the weekends. Like, that's what's important to me.
Yes.
So I wanted to make sure that I crafted my life in such a way that I could have those things in those experiences.
Nice, nice. So, as we begin to wrap up here, I have a last few questions. What is one belief you had as a beginning investor that turned out to be false, but
Mhm.
may be holding people back from taking the leap into investing?
Yeah. Um, so I think it was, and I can distinctly remember um, where I was living in Germany at the time, and I had like maybe two houses, and I was having a conversation with my wife. We were newly married just before we had kids. Like, huh, I got to figure out. I think I want, like, again, I was doing that math of where I want to be, and where I was and where we're going to, get to post military. I was like, I need to get five more houses, and I think I'll be good. I have no idea how I'm supposed to do that. Like, it's going to be way too hard. And that was before I discovered, like bigger pockets, before podcasting was really big, right? So, this was like maybe 2012, 13. Actually, no, lie. That was like 2010, 11. Um, and it was like, it felt like it was a daunting task. Like, how am I supposed to come up with 20% down to pay for, five more houses to do all this stuff? Um, and that was, I think, I had that kind of sense of, how am I like, I know I need to do this. I know other people can do it, but I don't know. I have no idea how to do it. Just,
Yeah.
how am I ever going to learn that? Especially, having a full-time job, being active duty. Um, that was one where it held me back for a while. I didn't think of real estate as a super viable. Like I knew it's what I wanted, but I just didn't know how to really get after it and the tools and techniques um, to be able to pursue um, real estate, to be able to get after the life that I wanted.
Okay. All right. Knowing what you know now,
Hmm.
what piece of advice would you give yourself at the beginning of your real estate journey to make yourself have faster, easier, and smoother success?
Yeah. So education, invest in yourself. It's the best investment you'll ever have. So there are a lot of people who, these gurus out there that sell courses and classes and stuff like that, and immediately like that comes off as very salesy, and a lot of people shy away from it. However, in investing into someone that has shown that they can get to where you want to go to, having don't hesitate to pay for that. I think in because if they are going to be able to streamline your journey to get to where you want to be, um, like I said, investing in yourself, that's what it means. It's not necessarily going to college, right? Like getting a real estate degree from, University of Penn or wherever, like that's great, but that's going to get you about 300 grand in debt and not really substantively closer to where you want to be, right? But investing into any number of education programs, and you don't have to take, the most expensive one. You don't have to find one that you like with people that you connect with, click with, and vibe with, that you trust, and you see what they're doing. Invest in yourself and allow yourself to receive and be open to mentorship as well. That's going to accelerate your journey like tremendously, because there's one thing. When I came along first doing it, there wasn't really as much with stuff on YouTube and all the pockets and all that stuff. That really didn't start until much later. Now, like it's so easy to learn how to do anything on YouTube. um you can get much farther trying to learn it by yourself, but even then, even still, there are things that you cannot learn unless you put an inordinate amount of time into, and many years that will kind of potentially maybe not get you to where you want to be in the timeline you want to be in, right? Like seriously consider investing in an education course and a mentor. Like if you can't provide them value by doing something for them, like pay them for their time. Like don't hesitate, right? Like they are where you want to be. So a small investment up front can have a magnitude, a multiple of the returns. So that's what I would say to myself.
Awesome. Um, is there any person, whether in real estate or not, that has led to your success?
Oh my goodness, sure. There's tons of people, right? You learn, and you should be learning from everybody on your journey. So obviously my parents growing up and instilling habits and beliefs and attitudes. Um, there are numerous folks along the way in terms of how to be a leader, right? That have been truly um, inspirational. Um, yeah, there's not just one person. There's so many people that I would say have contributed to my journey. So I feel like it's not fair to just name one over others. The authors of books that I've read, and the podcasts that I follow, right? Like I don't know them personally, but I know them through their work and through their education. Like my goodness, there are tons of those, and I throw out guys like Robert Kiyosaki out there, even Grant Cardone coming through. When I learned, I was following Garrett Gunderson and his Wealth Factory stuff, where I learned about the infinite banking concepts and how to leverage life insurance policies and stuff, and how to think about money and understand it. Tom Wheelwright and the tax incentives and his stuff. So many people that have gone through, and I still follow and listen to, like Rod Cleef and those guys. Brandon Turner's got a lot of great stuff out there from Bigger Pockets. Lots of those folks have been truly instrumental. I listen to Pace Morby and the seller financing stuff. Like anytime where I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this one tactic or come across something, I'm always in education mode and learning mode. So I'm looking at, okay, so who are the people that I need to follow and what books do I need to read? And that's what I do. Gary Keller in his book, The One Thing, has been great. The 4-Hour Work Week, right? When I think about the lifestyle and stuff that I wanted, all of those folks have absolutely contributed to, and very meaningfully, me getting to the place that I'm trying to get to and how far I've come now. And then I've got, obviously, I'd be remiss in saying the people that I invest with, right? So my partners, my two partners, Hema Robles and Derek Smith, that I've served with. And, so we've done like military stuff together. And then we're also doing investing stuff together and growing our wealth together. Like they have been like, they're part of my retirement plan for sure. You know what I mean? As we're all trying to get wealthy together. So yeah, just so many people.
Awesome. Well, Seneca, it has been a blast having you as our guest today. As we close out, please tell our listeners where we can learn more about you and get in touch with you and learn about all the fabulous things you have going on right now.
Yep. So you can follow me at Instagram, Seneca.pc. I'm also the military investor. You can follow me on Facebook, my name, LinkedIn. You can reach out to me. Really, the main ways, or Seneca at scdunlimited.com. So feel free to hit me up at any point in time, follow along. Hopefully I'll give you guys some nuggets, and I'm absolutely looking forward to engaging and listening to every single one of you. And I want to say thank you so much as well for having me on this show, and being able to talk about the things I love, right? Which real estate and paying it back. That's truly one of the most satisfying things that I get to do is kind of share my story and brag on some of the people who have helped me get there. And hopefully people have taken a little bit from some of my struggles and lessons, and they can use them in their own lives and move forward as well.
Awesome, Seneca. Again, I want to thank you for your time today and all the wisdom you have provided to my listeners. It's greatly appreciated. And I want to thank you, our fans, for tuning in to the Service to Syndication podcast, where we want to provide value to you and your investing business. Please tune in to our next episode, where we will interview another fantastic investing professional. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Service to Syndication podcast. We want you to know that we love and appreciate your support, and we are grateful about being a part of your journey to becoming a successful real estate entrepreneur. Please share this episode with a friend who you think will get a lot out of what you just heard. Send it to someone who you know is interested in real estate and dreams of having it all and being the best they can be in all areas of life. And if this was really valuable, share it on your social media stories and timelines. Thank you for watching and listening. Now go be great.